Is this thing working? Are we live? It kind of looks like we're live. Anyway, what's happening, everybody? Well, we're going to get this started. What is happening, everybody? I hope everybody is watching this is having a fantastic whatever day it is that you're watching it. Wow, that was painful. Is that how the show's going to go? Anyway, but I do hope you're having a great day. So if you are new to the channel, this is really not much more than a background noise generator. Sometimes I'll pull up stuff to have some screen share or something like that. But basically my live show is an opportunity for me to interact directly with you. If you guys have any questions about bikes that I've done riding reviews on, now's a great time to, ask that, deep, question that you had. Yeah, it's an opportunity for me to also work through different video ideas, stuff that just didn't really play out. Also give you guys some behind the scenes for stuff that I'm looking at for upcoming ride and review bikes, as well as who knows what else. But with that being said, yeah, I have been doing quite a bit of, finally catching up with riding some of the bikes. And what I was able to do recently is get out on the, I was able to ride my GSX-R 1000. And I got to say that, it's interesting as much time as I spend on other motorcycles, especially the ride and review bikes, even bikes in the fleet, I have got to sometimes I do a little bit of a palate cleanse with the GSX-R 1000. And it was interesting because I had ridden the 1000 and then immediately rode the 750. And the funny thing about riding those two bikes back to back is it really did show that both of those bikes, although they are in essence doing the same thing in terms of being a sport bike, doing sport bikey things, they couldn't go about it any differently, number one. And number two, it, for me, kind of illustrated a couple of truths about having a leader bike. And one of the things about bringing back leader bike stuff is, or bringing back, sorry, I just saw Sam. I'm glad GM's bringing back a 5.7. Sweet. Anyway, one of the things about the leader bike is that it is really, it is extremely important that if you are in cooler weather, that you are giving that bike time to warm up, the suspension to warm up and everything else, because a leader bike in cold weather is spicy. And so I had taken that bike out, and before everything kind of got up to temperature, that bike was head shaky. It was trying to do little power wheelies everywhere. And the reason for the head shake was that the oil in the shock, or in the forks, was just not letting the forks extend fast enough. And because of that, it was floating the front tire where it normally wouldn't. And so I was getting this really lower RPM third gear, like little shakes out of it. And I was going, oh, here we go with this. I go and get the 1000, and I mean the 750, and it makes the 1000 just like an unruly brat. I mean, it just absolutely is rock solid. Cold weather, hot weather, it didn't matter. And that bike is just such a neat bike to ride. And so when I'm riding the 750 in that ride along video, just keep in mind, I'm riding it right after going out and having a lot of fun with that 1000. I was out getting pretty rowdy with that bike, and I jump on the 750 and I felt right at home, and it didn't feel like I was wanting for anything more out of that 750. But anyway, just a bit of some of the background on that. Let me check in with you guys real quick. Sam is in, saying Yobi Mason. Armax in. Martin is in, saying, what up, Prof? What's up, man? Betty's saying Supermoto. That's always on the table. But yeah, Sam talking about GM bringing back the 5.7. Man, let's just hope that it is a worthy engine. I mean, let's make sure that it's making good enough power. The 5.3, when I drove it, was a bit anemic. And get your quality control back. Yeah, that thing needs to be making 400 horsepower. I'm going to be kind of disappointed. Miki's in. Howdy. Howdy. Ryan saying, has anybody else seen these AI articles about El Camino or such, the rendering? Oh, yeah, those have been out for a long time. The Elko was, yeah, the Elko's been, I don't know why. Look, this is kind of a funny thing for me. Elkos have such a hardcore fan base, and I'm one of the guys that loves Elkos, by the way. I like oddball stuff, so I like Elkos and wagons too. But Elkos have got such a strong base, and Utes in Australia are so popular. I don't understand why the United States doesn't have one. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, outside of, you know, some kind of crossover type vehicles that would sort of fit that bill. Anyway, yeah, it'd be cool if GM would do something cool with that. Because I would like that. I would love to see something like that. Hell, as far as car stuff goes, first of all, I cannot get into car stuff anymore. I am falling asleep even thinking about it, because none of the manufacturers are doing anything that I would consider to be exciting. Not one. And because of that, with the Supra kind of going away, and the 400, the Z car is just floundering right now. There's so much that could be that isn't. And I'm bored to tears with it. Dodge has nothing for me in the Challenger, Charger, or whatever. They're going to call whatever car's coming out. And the other side to that is the next whatever it is, I'm sure is going to be some kind of a halo car that's going to be a 6-figure just monstrosity that, it's just one more just way too aspirational type of a vehicle coming from a brand that has been the butt of so many jokes for so many decades that, Dodge at this stage of the game, I'm just not interested. And if Chevy, though, could come out with the El Camino, that would be sick, right? Don't worry about Camaro. You've already got Corvette, which I'm tired of being bored with Corvette stuff. But if they could just bring out something that was cool for the masses, the next manufacturer to do that gets my money, period. And especially if GM would do something a little bit outside the box, put that new 5.7 in something like an Elko. How could you go wrong? You know what I mean? Like, that would be super cool. And I mean, hell, they had the SSR. They had what all other goofy cars were out back in the day when everybody was making their concept cars. Anyway, you get the idea. But there's just nothing in, there's just nothing in the car sphere, excuse me, that I can even hardly get excited about. And if I do get excited about talking about any cars, they're typically older new gen type cars, like 6.1 stuff. I mean, I would rather talk about a 6.1 Magnum, for example, SRT8 Magnum or Challenger, than get off into the weeds on Hellcat stuff, because it's just not really all that relatable, or 5.7 stuff for that matter. Oh, Ryan's liking the idea of the scamp version of the Elko. Yep. Rumors of a better Toyota Supra generation. Hopefully we'll see something cool with that. That's not going to be a ridiculously out of this world type of a price point. Sam saying 5.3 and 6.2 are being phased out with the 5.7 and 6.6. Look, man, GM's got to do something. The 5.3 is a joke. The 6.2 has got more problems than JZ. And look, they're just getting outworked by engines all of them. Like any of the twin turbo 6s will march on a 6.2. The 5.3, the last 5.3 that I drove, guys, I don't know if something was wrong with that truck, but that thing was anemic. Like, it felt like it was running on 7 cylinders, the amount of power it was making. Ryan saying, bring back Holden brand. Holden brand would be pretty good. But again, bring back Holden and give us a Ute with a Holden badge, and I'd be all about it. Sublime's in saying, hey, B, long time no chat. Quick question. Thinking about trading up my Challenger 15 Scat Pack to a 19 TA392. What are your thoughts? 19392 has a better OS. 15 is 120,000 miles auto, and the 19 is 50K with a manual. Do you like manuals? If you like manuals, get the TA. If you aren't really into manuals, though, hold what you got. That's what I would do. I mean, I would prefer to have the automatic in that car. For me, the Challenger is just it's too big of a car to have a manual. That being said, though, one of my all-time favorite cars to drive is the 6-speed 6.1 car. So if you like it, I would definitely go with the 19 and up. But see if you can get them down on that price point, though. Don't come into that at 50. I'd say 42 at the most. I mean, you're gonna have to really do some negotiating. I think he's a little high on that price. Sam saying Mopar's dead and has been since the Germans took over. I don't know. The Germans gave us the Hellcat, so. But they've been dead since Stellantis took over for sure. Brian saying GM, not Gmail. I know. I got you. Brian saying get the M6. Yeah, if you like the M6s, get it. I'll tell you what, it is a fun car to drive. Just put a Barton shifter in it, and you will be mucho happy with that. Muy happy, I should say. Skid's checking in with RMAC. I like it. Yeah, look, man. Again, the car scene. Look, man, there's a reason why I got out of it. I couldn't. There was nothing about it that was exciting, interesting. There was nothing about it that I could really get turned on by. And here's the other thing. Every car, truck, van, SUV that I went looking for, that I wanted to do a build on, these people wanted way too much money for this stuff. And look, I get it. Everything's up for negotiation, but when you're starting at a number that is so high that negotiation is no longer part of the equation, like you literally turn somebody off like that, right? And here's the funny thing. You know, a project car like that can be pretty interesting, but you would almost have to do a full engine and transmission swap for any of these older cars to be realistically drivable today. Look, I know there's plenty of guys out there that'll have like an old Mustang or a Camaro, whatever it is, an old Aspen, because I was looking at Aspens at one point. Anything with a 3-speed automatic that has got a 1-to-1 drive, final drive, which they all do, you're going to have to put a rear gear in the thing that is going to just absolutely neuter the torque output of that engine. And you can't run a real aggressive converter with that type of a setup. So the cars, they're to be able to drive them like an automobile and not just on surface streets, because, they won't comfortably cruise more than about 65 or 70 miles an hour. It's just not worth having. I mean, modern day traffic clips along, at least down here anyway, at 85 to 90 miles an hour. And if the car can't run at those speeds, stop at those speeds, and handle at those speeds, it's just not worth owning. And so there's so much that goes into these resto mods, if you will, to get them to actually act right. I've already kind of been down that road with Sierra, and I just don't know that I would be a player to go down that road again. Skid's asking, B, you now own a Hurricane Ram. You can speak to the new Chargers to some degree. I kind of can. So let's talk about that for a second. So Pearl is an awesome truck. I cannot tell you just how happy I am with that. Oh, by the way, I do have the contraption coming to do away with the auto start stop feature on that truck. I will be doing I'll be doing an install video with that. It cannot get here soon enough. And that is my one major gripe about that truck platform, whatever, that whole operating system, this modern new operating system from Ram, outside of the fact that it is glitchy as all get out. One of the things about it is the auto start stop function is not programmed properly. And I know that just because I've been living with it, and I can tell you that whoever programmed it never actually lived with an auto start stop before and didn't really quite understand when to actually make it auto stop. Here's the thing. You get into your Ram pick 'em up truck and you drive. I am driving. And then you get to wherever you're going. I am stopping, and you're in the parking lot or whatever. You come to a stop and then the truck dies. Okay. This happens when I pull into my driveway every time that I forget to turn off the auto start stop. You come to a stop in drive, obviously, the truck dies. You put it in park, it fires back up only to have you kill it again. What the frick is going on with that? Then the other very annoying thing about it is that it's the amount of time that you will be driving the vehicle that it will immediately go into auto start stop. Like there should be like a 5-minute grace period that, you know, you're in your neighborhood, right? And you're basically just trying to get where you're going, and you know, you got cars coming, all this other stuff. I come to the end of a road that is like I can throw a rock the length of this road and the auto start stop kicks on. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. You just reach down, hit the button, it fires right up. I will say this, in terms of execution, it is seamless with this truck, but it is very off-putting, and I cannot stand that whole bit of technology. I think that is the absolute stupidest hack to a test. That there, do you know how this works? Okay, so check this out. There are different loops that you have to engage in as a manufacturer when you're developing your, I don't know, your EPA fuel economy numbers. And to get to a certain number, there's like the certain amount of distance that you travel, you'll stop, you'll start, you'll be doing all this other stuff. And part of that is inner city. And this has something to do like CO2 emissions, I guess, or whatever. You come to a stop and it kills the truck. And that helps you to pass the test. Well, that's stupid. Think about that for a minute. If you have a button that all you have to do is boop, press the button, then that's a user interface, and you can just turn off that feature if you don't want it. If it doesn't save you enough gas, or if it annoys you or whatever, you should just be able to turn it off in your particular vehicle. And if you want to use it at your discretion, you can. Maybe there's times where it makes a lot of sense, right? Well, the problem is that the way that the test goes down, that driver interface is taken out of this whole equation. In other words, it's going to do the auto start stop whether you want it to or not, which I think is a bit of a weird cheat for that test. But anyway, I digress. I'm getting the device that just absolutely makes that problem go away, and I cannot wait for that to show up. I wouldn't even worry so much about the auto start stop thing if it was just programmed better, if it was a more common sense based approach to the auto start stop technology in its deployment, so to speak. Let's see. Oh, entry level price point for the GR Corolla, $52,000. I forget that, man. The hell is up with vehicle costs these days? Sam saying Mopar hasn't been relevant since the K platform, the Caravan. Dude, remember okay, so somebody, I just saw it, the manual Caravans. I knew a guy that had a manual Caravan with a 2.5 liter turbo. That thing would do front tire burnouts for miles. And yep, Sam brought it up, the turbo Caravan. Absolutely. And you could get them cheap. I don't know why they were so cheap, but you could get them crazy cheap. And man, oh man. I mean, those things, you could make them absolutely haul butt. But I knew a guy that had one. I've driven it maybe a handful of times. We gave a German platform a hit of pure American moonshine. I tell you what, that W211 platform is a badass platform that the Challenger and Charger were built on. It's a W211 E-Class platform with W212 suspension bits, which is the S-Class platform. The Caravan was a Daimler chassis. But yeah, lots of crazy car stuff. Like I say, I cannot see, but listen to what we're talking about. We're talking about a hot rod minivan. You know, we're talking about cars from an era that, you know, kind of anything would go and could go. And that's, you know, Dodge just got away from their roots. And as far as I'm concerned, and look, here's the thing. When you start talking about Dodge from the Cold War era, you know, that was an era where the V8 was going away. It was kind of falling out of favor anyway. The whole muscle car thing had kind of played itself out, and there weren't really a whole lot of takers, although there were some. Like you had like the Aspen RT, the Mustang GT, the Camaro. You know, there were still some hot rods out there, but they just really weren't all that well. They just don't, I don't know, for whatever reason, it doesn't feel like they're all that well received. You know, it's just kind of weird. I really like the Aspen too. Anyway, but you know, coming out of that era, you had some cars that were really good, and you know, that just barely budding import scene. I always thought that was a cool time. I know a lot of you know, a lot of boomer types would, you know, really balk at these 4-cylinders and it's not a big block and all this other shit, but yeah, I think we've all outgrown that mentality and are very much the better for it. Brotherhood of Soy with the Hornet. What a travesty that is. The whole Hornet thing. It's like I see you working, but it didn't work out. Plus, the cost of those things was just through the roof. There was no amount of shell game that Tim Kuniskis was going to be able to play with the general public to get them to get excited about that car. There's just absolutely no way around that. But that poor guy's hands were tied anyway. So I don't know. I know that, you know, Mr. Kuniskis has got some things that he would like to do with the brand. But I think that based on prior administration's investment strategy, I think that he's going to have his hands tied for a very, very long time. But just remember, guys, you get what you vote for. And you got some midterm elections coming up this coming year in 2026. Remember that come November. Ryan saying, give us a Magnum with 5.7, but all-wheel drive. In the current platform, I mean, maybe. I don't know. My thing, honestly, with the 5.7 is that engine it's desperately in need of an update. It needs to be updated. Look, with GM now coming out with the 5.7 and 6.6, Dodge has got to do something with the 5.7. I don't know what it is about them that makes them think that their engine's going to be there forever, but it's not in that form. It needs more power, more displacement. It needs a much better intake manifold, at least for the trucks. Well, the truck's actually really good. The cars could use a little bit of a bump. But the SRT variant, absolutely, with the 6.4 liter needs some kind of a increase there. But, you know, all of that being said, you know, you can want in one hand and shit in the other, right? It's just, I don't see Dodge doing what's right. And if they do, look, man, the clock's ticking. You've got maybe a generation and a half of guys that are still going to be interested in Dodge. You've got Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. That's it. So 3.5, they're really going to be giving a shit about anything that Dodge does. And really X and Y are the only two that are probably going to be the ones that would spend the money on what they would want to put out. You got to know your audience, Dodge, and it is clear as a bell that you don't. So let's see what the other manufacturers come up with. But until then, I am going to be fast asleep. when it comes to car stuff. I cannot be any less interested. And again, can you blame me? I mean, they themselves aren't interested in making anything worth getting excited about. So, Sam saying my biggest regret was selling a 944 turbo just before they take off in value. Yeah, found my old car for sale last week for 34 grand. I sold it for 8. 944 turbo, awesome car. Awesome for its era, and the Conquest / Starion was a direct line of sight competitor to that car. Ryan saying, fair enough on the engine. Hear me out. I thought if you made the newer Charger thingy into an all-wheel drive station wagon, it would be cool. It would be cool. It's got the size for it. It's just that the 5.7 doesn't have the grunt to drag it around. I mean, if you're going to do it with a 6.4. I'm not kidding. You throw a 6.4 in that thing, give it some grunt, and then have a base engine, I guess, as a 5.7, but you're going to have this, all the engines available for it. If you want a V8, though, you're going to want that something, possibly forced induced. And, and I can tell you, by the way, the Hurricane 6 is really good. Getting back to Ryan's point, it's really good. That engine is very strong, very powerful. It's got the smaller turbos. It spools up quickly, but not too quickly. Peak torque at about 3,500 RPM, not shabby. Peak horsepower at about 5,500 RPM. Okay. Pickup truck and grunty little engine. I like it. Gets pretty decent fuel economy numbers, and there's not any tuning available for it, but with a downpipe and a cat delete, if it had tuning, you could probably extract another 50 or 60 horsepower and about 60 or 70 pound-feet of torque out of it very safely with the single pump that it's got. Talking about the fuel pump. And just have a riot of a motor. And if you really want to go ballistic, go with the super output, the high output motor, but get prepared to pay for it. That's the only thing. Ryan saying it would draw from the Audi crowd. Well, anything right now. I mean, all-wheel drive. It's going to be all-wheel drive. That's what that platform's based around. Ryan saying, remember the last time Professor got excited was the Demon 170. Yeah, the helicopter entrance got all jacked up. Yeah, I was a little bit bummed out with that. Sam said if Mopar was smart, they would do a hot V turbo on the 5.7. You wouldn't want that. Believe me. A lot of people say that. They go, oh, let's put turbos on the V8. No, trust me, you wouldn't want it. That block will handle a nice amount of power. Don't get me wrong. But what they would have to do to make that engine warrantable and survivable on that kind of boost with the general public being involved in that, like, somebody's wife putting 87 octane in the thing and just making it, believe me when I tell you, the amount of electronics wizardry that you would have to put into that thing that Dodge does not have direct line of sight access to would be scary. Like, you would have to dumb that thing down to the point where it would be maybe a 500 horse small turbo 5.7 that would just spool up instantly and make really good power all the time. That would be maybe a 550 horse, but that would be about the extent that I would really want to get to, because God only knows the kind of warranty issues you would have with something like that. Ryan's asking, what about the BGE 392 block? Absolutely, you could. But again, what kind of packaging are we talking about? What kind of cost are you willing to pay for it? See, the problem is that it sounds good and it looks good on paper, but the big problem is, are you going to buy one? Because you go small turbos again, 5 to 10 PSI, you're right back at that's the Hellcat motor. And the thing is that the 6.2 all that is a 6.4 with a 5.7 crank. So in fact, remember the original Hellcat engine was a 392. The test mule was a 392. So look, the point is, I guess, when you start to throw that kind of power, that kind of boost at a V8, now we're talking about a transmission that will not handle it. The HP 75 would be way past its bedtime when it comes to trying to deal with that kind of power. So now you're talking HP 90. Okay, well, that comes at a greater cost. And now we've got an assembly line with multiple different power plant platforms with different transmission platforms that are going to have different cross member setups because the differences in size with the two transmissions. All of this stuff starts to just snowball. You're going to start collecting all kinds of dumb, stupid little things that can be overcome. But good Lord, at what expense, right? So that's why the Hurricane platform is such a good platform, because it doesn't matter what truck is coming down the line. They all get the same transmission. They all get the same this, that, and everything else. One of them gets a different wiring harness, and that's kind of sort of it. I mean, seriously, they all basically are interchangeable at that point outside of ECU, the actual operating system differences. So, again, getting more into, the ability to just say, why can't it just be like this though? Say, okay, here's the one that I want. Where the hell is the truck that I'm looking for? I want Pearl BGE 392 making 480 horse and 470 torque. Just dumb the power down a little bit, take a little bit of timing out of it because it's a truck. Maybe put it in at 470 or whatever. Where's that? I mean, why can't I have that? I can have a 6.2 liter in a Chevy, but I can't have an engine that's already been in a heavy ass Jeep. It's already been in the Durango. You're already putting V8s in pickup trucks. Why in the hell did that engine never get put? See what I mean? This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Dodge is as clueless as they come. And it's run by people that have no understanding of car guy or the way car dude thinks. Because the first engine that you put in that truck, in that Ram pickup truck, should have been the 6.1 liter, the 4.25 horse. That should have set the table for having a 392 in that bitch. And then at some point, way before you came out with a TRX, make it a Hellcat variant option as well. You got to remember the trucks were where you would find all of this stuff first. We had the RT, the Ram RT pickup trucks, which are some of my all-time favorite trucks, by the way. That wouldn't get a 392? What? You got to be kidding me. And so for me, I look at what Ram has done, and it's like, look, you can spot them, the ham, the bread, and the freaking mayo, and they're going to get this wrong. You're going to have mayo on their hand, then a piece of ham, and then some more mayo, and then they're going to put the bread sideways, and then they're going to drape some more ham around that, and then hit it with mayo. And then they're going to shove it up their ass. That's how they're going to do that. They're not going to get any portion of this right. They're going to call that monstrosity a sandwich and then try to reverse eat the fucking thing. And then they're going to make you think that you're some kind of an asshole for not appreciating the effort. That's Dodge for me right now. And I'm sorry, but I can't Ram is Ram brand as far as I'm concerned. Dodge, the brand itself. I mean, the bugle, can you hear the bugle playing? At some point, Taps has got to be freaking played for that brand if they're going to keep on the path, if they're going to keep on the path that they're at. Boy, I tell you what, right now, if they're going to keep on the path that they're at, they're going to have to do something like dope as fuck soon, right? Because a lot of guys like me that are in their buying demographic are just, they've already, their mission creep has already crept in. Let's see. Sam saying HD truck transmission is too heavy. You start throwing all that kind of stuff at one of these trucks, and now you're talking about something that's way too heavy. It needs to be an HP 90. Single cab, regular bed. Where the hell is that truck? Exactly. A true Warlock, indeed. And without having a single cab, it just kind of makes me a little bit ill too. But I'm right there with you. I'd throw my money at it too. Fox Commando Jeep. Not familiar. Again, I haven't been keeping up though. Yeah, you know what's funny, Sims? I don't know why they got away with the quad. They did away with the quad cab. Oh, so yeah, the Goon Squad with the van with the Hellcat engine. That thing is my all-time favorite. I love that. They did such a good job on that. Bullet said you're on a roll, and it's true, man. I'm telling you, it's too much to. The thing is with me and Dodge, it's just too much for me to. How do I put it? I can't make excuses for him anymore. I'm just not happy with the brand outside of the Ram pickup truck, which has all of the same electrical problems that you would expect out of a Dodge in general. Look, if it weren't for the fact that truck gets down the road as good as it does, you would be looking at another series of failures as far as I'm concerned from that brand. So we can only hope that Chevrolet, GMC, whatever, will do something cool in the future for us to start to get excited about. It ain't coming from Dodge, at least not anytime soon. And if they did drop something cool, let's say they drop a new Viper. Ooh, a new Viper. Who cares? Nobody can afford one at this stage of the game. You know, you might as well go, it's the new Dodge F22 Raptor. Great. Can't afford it. Wouldn't know what to do with it if I had one anyway. So, Ford, by the way, if it ain't a Mustang, don't buy it. They keep putting rubber belts on timing gear for the Coyote, not timing, but for the oil pump gear for the Coyote, which scares the living hell out of me. Call me old fashioned, but I kind of like my oil pump to be driven by, I don't know, gears or a chain at least, not a rubber or whatever Kevlar belt that could deteriorate at any given moment. So what, who's left? Honestly, ain't nobody left. Let's see. Ryan say Dodge Focus Group should be this live show. I'm telling you, I've put it out there over and over and over again. And in my channel, it says for business opportunities, reach out to this email. Come on, Dodge, fly me out. I'd be more than happy to get everybody set straight. I just hate to say it, but it just feels like, I don't know. It just feels like that company is being run by people that have no business being in the car business. Sam saying government cafe standards and journalists. I'll tell you what, journos, I don't really give them, they're always going to be nitpickies. Cafe standards are way out of whack, but because of some of those standards, we got some of the technology that we have today. But the latest series of mandates is what I say is the problem. Skid saying, if you want a nice middleweight all-wheel drive twin turbo 6, at least you have access to one. True that. Tell you what, Smoking Hots is not a all-wheel drive, but my truck is, and it is fun. Ryan said Toyota pulled their head out of their asses and dropped the prices on their vehicles. They you know what? I tell you something. It would be awesome, but they're not going to. And all these manufacturers, look, man, they're making cars for I don't know who, but nobody's buying them. And the problem is that they're figuring out pretty quickly that not listening to their buying public and thinking they know better than the people that have the money that are going to spend the money for the thing that they're trying to sell. yeah, you might want to listen to those people, because those are the people that keep you employed and will so for a very long time, like for generations, if you do them right and you treat them right. But again, like I say, for a lot of guys, they're already looking way past this whole Dodge thing. And, you know, we got to have something better. We got to have something new. We got to have something fresh. And that's power plant, platform, and everything in between. Ryan saying, us Cold War blue collar workers with the credit down payment, they're not listening. Exactly. They're not. And the weird thing about it is that us of a certain age that really don't age, you might want to consider those for what you want to, I don't know, market a product to. Like, do you like stuff like what you know was good, like the cool stuff from back in the day? Quit trying to market products that we think that, 45 to 55-year-old and 65-year-old people that are going, God, that's an old looking design. That's kind of, my dad had one of those. I don't want something my dad had. Think about that for a minute. You got people that are dads of people that have made babies that are saying that looks like an old, I don't want that. You got grandparents that don't like it right now. Let that sink in for a minute, Dodge. Old people think your stuff is old. That's dumb. Yeah, how if nothing else, that should be the shot in the arm that you need. Skids is asking, is he frozen? Am I frozen? Did the feed freak out? Did the feed freak out? But anyway, guys, with that, I am going to have to wrap it up. Bit of a short show tonight. So coming into Tuesday, we've got Two Wheel Tuesday, and then we'll have the last motor chat. When is it? Next week for the year. But for Two Wheel Tuesday, I'm thinking about doing like a little bit of a year in review. We're going to talk a little bit about what bikes that I like the most, some of the cheers, some of the jeers. And Ryan saying Wings Wednesday. I may open it up for that. We may do a few shows into 26 where we just talk about some of the Warbirds, some of the maybe some of the engine technology behind those aircraft, and try to dispel some rumors as far as like, where does the P40 really stand? Y'all know that's my favorite. At least in terms of like the why behind the what, like, why is that thing why is that airplane your favorite? Or, what kind of issues that some of these power plants had along the way. Kind of interesting stuff. Nothing that, you probably haven't heard before, but it's sometimes fun to talk about, but we may get into that a little bit for 2026. But with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, hope to catch y'all on the next one. Y'all take it easy.